Hello, my name is Elle Wang. I come from Columbia University Teachers College. I study cognitive science and learning science.
Well, thanks for taking the time to join us as we start looking at some of the practical ways in which researchers are looking at analytics and are looking at educational data. So one of the first questions I'd throw your way is, in your research, what kind of activity do you engage in, or what's the nature of your research in the learning space?
Great. I think the nature of my research really relates to two aspects. One is how we do research to improve the learning process for both learners and teachers. And the second aspect is really, we want to know about the learners in different settings. And for me, I am essentially a MOOC researcher, so I want to know more about who are our MOOC learners and how we can help them in the next step.
Are there any set of tools or specific resources or methods that you like to use when you're engaging with that MOOC data?
Sure. So in terms of methodologies, so I am a cognitive scientist. So I use, on one hand, psychometrics, and on the other hand, I also use educational data mining methods. And in terms of specific tools, I use common stats packages like R, SPSS, and even Excel. And I also use RapidMiner for data mining. And also, any other visualization tools we found useful, we would also want to engage with that.
Well, that last point is particularly interesting about visualization, because you can do an amazing job analyzing and working with data and getting insights from that data, but in the long run, you have to make it available for someone, whether it's the student or a faculty member, but you have to make it available for someone to understand what that means. And that someone often may not be as technically proficient as you are. Mm-hmm. Are there any best practices or any, from your experience with visualizing data, are there any elements that you particularly like to emphasize to make sure that the message is understood by the person looking at your visualizations?
Yes, I totally agree with you on this perspective. I think visualization, one of the huge benefits of visualization is help your audience understand what you are doing. I think I wouldn't say like any specific visualization package is definitely good for all settings, but you always wanted to tell your audience what is your goal and what is the research question you want to answer up front, and make sure that your question is phrased in a context-relevant way.
Great. Now, with your research then, and some of the activity in MOOCs, because MOOCs are still quite a new phenomena. They've only been around for a few years, but they have had so much media attention, and they've gotten the attention of really, it cuts across, horizontally all aspects of the university. So you have physicists and chemists and people in psychology and people in education, and you have researchers that really, administrators. There's such an interest in MOOCs and in MOOC data. What are the insights that you're getting out of your research around MOOCs, and what do you think that'll help us do differently educationally?
Sure. One of the most recent MOOC research I did with my team is on exploring to study how different aspects of motivation of learners correlate with MOOC completion rates. Now, I know that MOOC completion rates might not be the most fascinating factor or determining factor, but it's one of the available factors. And we found that from all the variables we throw into, that we found if students who are more interested in factors that is related to the novelty of MOOC research platform itself rather than the content itself, then they're less likely to complete a course. And I think one of the implications for that finding is that maybe we wouldn't want to have one small slide intervention for the instructors to put in a note saying that we want to invite you to read through our syllabus, our course load, and some background before you officially enroll in the course, instead of just give a very simple one-sentence encouragement and then one click, you're in, and then maybe you don't come back, and then you're getting a little bit frustrated later on. So I think if we could use this kind of finding and generate some real-world intervention for both students and learners, and that would be great.
Let's say the audience now, or the learners that are taking this particular MOOC, and let's say they're at the stage they've taken a few of the course elements, they've listened to a couple lectures, they've had a chance to play with tools and do some analytics work with data. And let's say they decide they want to get serious now, and they realize that this is a field that fascinates me. I'm interested. What kind of advice would you give someone who is motivated to continue to be engaged in this field? How would you advise them to get started on that journey?
That's a great question. I would have two quick advice. Number one is be super confident about yourself. No matter whether you are doing data science before or you have never touched upon stats before. Like myself, I did not learn my first stats course until like 1.5 years ago. That's considered super low level, entry level. Then the second advice is go online and join the great societies like Learning Analytics Society by George. There are a lot of open online sources you can find. And believe it or not, there are all kinds of MOOC courses online can help you to do all the stages, needed softwares, to help you understand the whole area. And then after that, you will always going to be finding some small niche that you're going to be really interested in and contributing in this field.
Great. Terrific. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.